So just looking through the pigeonhole, there's been quite a number of questions already coming through. And I guess to start off, one of the most highly voted questions right now is, can you describe how you solicit test ideas from the business? You talked a lot about using the business side to help with some of your tests, but you used it for the other side as well, in terms of getting ideas from them.
Yeah, definitely. So every quarter we would send out that email to the business to ask for input. But you want to kind of guide that input as well, right? So in this email, I would generally put a couple of suggestions of tests that have really worked well in the past, link out to results decks and recent tests, and just sprinkle in a few other ideas of things that we're thinking about but wanted to know if the business was also interested. So, really just widely opening up that invitation to people and giving them examples is a great way to spark new ideas.
And I guess just a follow-up question from this was, how do you also convince the business that doing these tests is a good idea?
So that's a really great question. When I first started in the Google Ops for Business group, we didn't have a testing program. And I was able to scrap together some dev resources to run exactly one test my first quarter there. And that was kind of a make it or break it situation because I needed to prove that we were going to have lasting impact. Thankfully, the test that we ran ended up blowing away the old website which we had, which really wasn't hard to do because it was not optimized at all. But what happened was we saw a crazy increase in trials. I sent out a result deck to the whole organization, and it ended up getting sent up the line. It actually went all the way to Larry Page. This is month 2 of my time at Google. I will never top that. But it came down the line, and everybody was really, really excited about the results we were seeing. And so that helped to gain support in the organization. So I'd say one big win can start it, but also showing persistence and pushing on and really convincing people that there is value to be gained.
And I guess on that topic, how do you practice the skill of evangelizing the analytical results and sort of getting everybody on board on the results that you're showing?
It's really just being vocal in the organization and standing your ground when people say, oh, we should just launch this. A lot of times being that evangelist is also being that kind of, hard ass when it comes to no, I'm sorry, you can't actually do that. You must test this, or we need to follow. We have this process in place for a reason, and we've seen really great results. So part of my job is showing people the results we've seen, and the other part is making sure that they follow the process that we've put in place.
Absolutely. So the companies that you've worked with, Adobe, Google, Apollo Group, have all been on the digital side. Mm-hmm. How can a non-digital company leverage testing?
That's a great question. I've seen some really cool things with in-store analytics and store data and really testing out even let's say it's a retailer and you're looking at positioning of products on your shelves. You can do a lot with that. There's some great technology in terms of understanding movement within stores and how people will enter a store and go between the aisles and the products that they have affinities for, and so even though it's an offline store, you can get that data online and analyze it and really drive impact.
So there's also been a couple of questions about just the process of testing. So I guess one of the most highly rated questions right now is, how do you prioritize which tests to run? Is one button on one page feels like a really small thing, so how can you sort of prioritize spending time on which test?
Yeah, definitely. So the organizations that I've worked in, we make this collaborative. So I mentioned that once we have all of these test ideas, we all sit down in a room together. And this can be anywhere from a couple hour to a couple day process. And there has been many instances where there's arguing and different people being a little disappointed that their tests didn't get prioritized. But it really comes down to what's the potential for the highest business impact, what's the easiest to launch, how quickly can we get it to market, how much traffic do we have to allocate to each of these, and those things come into factor when we're deciding what tests get prioritized.
Sure. And then how do you also coordinate testings, across if it's CLV testing versus this A/B testing? Is there a way that you've sort of figured out how to coordinate them?
So I'm not sure that I quite understand the question, but I think you're talking about maybe just different organizations or different people within the organization running a lot of tests. And so what we did was at Google, when I was running this testing program, we actually created a testing council. And it was actually all of the different areas of the whole Google Apps for Work ecosystem that we're testing, whether that be on the marketing website, the sign-up flow, in product, support. And we met once a month, and we had a constant communication about what was going on and if there might be any conflicts. And it was a really good way to know that if there was a test running on the marketing site having an impact down the funnel, that maybe those results could be different otherwise.
Sure, I think just like coordinating across departments makes that helpful. So you'd mentioned about the customer demographic, getting a lot of customer data when trying to figure out testing and sort of segmenting your market. But with all of that data, how can you tell if something's been too personal or that creepy factor of like the company knowing too much about a customer?
So there is high potential to be creepy online. I think we all know that. You see that ad following you around everywhere for some product that you never even wanted and accidentally saw. I think it's really on the business to be conscious of that creepy factor. I don't think there's any, best way or, rules for doing it good or bad. I think it really comes down to having a conscience with how much you're tracking your users, and really being conscientious of that data and that security around that personal information.
Sure. And then there's also been a number of questions just on Google itself. So in what ways is Google sort of ahead of the curve in analytics compared to other companies? There are a lot of sophisticated tests that you sort of presented here at Google, but I guess how far along is Google versus other companies who are doing similar things?
So I think that question can be interpreted in a couple ways. So in terms of, running a testing program, I can't say that we are more sophisticated or not than, a lot of other companies internally. I think the marketing organization that I worked for as a practitioner running these tests, when I came in, was not at all advanced. They weren't doing any testing. And by the time I left that organization, we were running a lot of tests. But I've seen, many other organizations doing even more. So I think, there's a scale. We increased a lot, but there was still a lot of room to grow. And in terms of, our analytics product itself and our testing products, I think that those, they're really highly used in the market. And I think that speaks for itself. They're decent tools, and we're constantly improving them.
Sure. Do you have any sort of leaders or like market leaders right now who you think are doing testing really well about what their customers are doing?
Yeah, so I recently met with the testing team of Booking.com. They're one of our clients, and they are doing some really cool things. They've actually put out several studies and white papers online. You should Google this because there's some really cool things out there. But they're very, very advanced in the tests that they run. And I've been constantly surprised and inspired by a lot of the things they're putting out.
Is there, within the Google Analytics suite of products right now, is there anything that you're really excited about that companies should be looking into?
Absolutely. So I showed you Optimize. That is our new A/B testing platform. It doesn't just do A/B testing, it does multivariate testing and redirect testing as well. It has a WYSIWYG visual editor, so you can drag and drop, and in the example that I showed, you just click to enter new text, and then you can do that there. The real power of it, though, is that you can use your segments from Google Analytics in Optimize to target people. So I showed you that I had a segment of chair lovers, which were just people who visited the chair page on my website, and I used that to target the new experience to them. So I'm super excited about that product and just testing and personalization in general.
Does Google use the analytics tools on themselves in terms of like internally?
We do. So that was my job for 2 years, was using Google Analytics and testing all of our external pages, because I was the internal practitioner for our pages. And I actually do the same thing for the Google Analytics marketing site. So if you ever see a test running on there, or you're curious about what's going on, that might have been me.
Great. Well, that's all the time we have for now, but thank you so much, Krista, for all of your insights, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.